Hey, welcome back to the channel. Got a little something on the bench for you here. So we have a PH2.0 and a BT2.0 connector. My last video is coming to Propsoff, so kind of August 2022 coming to Propsoff. I was showing off this quad and I got the Diamond ELRS board on it, and I'm going to be doing some stuff, some videos with this, things that I've noticed, and you know, a video to come. And somebody noticed this connector and they said, hey, you know, what's going on with that? And I had someone else message me, and it kind of led to a, you know what, while I'm in the middle of doing this, because I have a race tonight and I have a dozen of these dudes to do, and I thought I'll make a video for them of how I'm getting this to swap out. So that's basically what this video is about, how I'm going to do this, the procedure that I do, because I have like a dozen of them to do, and I'm going to go ahead and get that done for you. So stay tuned. Alright, so basically we have the PH2.0 connector. So these are G&B Lipos. I don't know if they got a label here. So 380 mAh 1S 3.8 60C PH2.0 connector. These Lipos are around $2 and some change a piece. The Lipos I'm finding have this connector on it, the BT2.0, they're like $7. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm not paying $7 for a Lipo. I'm just not doing it. Personal opinion. But I'm going to go ahead and show how I get this connector swapped out, in case you're interested in how I'm cutting this, soldering it, and everything else. The finished product pretty much looks like this. And let me explain real quick a little bit about the connector. So let me go ahead and zoom in for you. Alright, so we have our BT2.0 connector. Okay, and this is the female side. So this is the side that receives the pins. This is the side that's going to go on the Lipo, and then I have the side that goes onto the quadcopter. This is the male end. You can see the pins down in there that go into this connector. So this is the male and this is the female. So the first thing that we want to do, let me see if I can not throw that on the floor again, is we're going to get these pins in a certain orientation. You can kind of see on the back here, there's a flat side. I don't know if you can see that. It's like a half moon. There's a flat side, and then there's a rounded side. I want the flat sides out, because that's where I'm going to solder to. I want as much space in between these two as I can get. So I'm just going to take a pair of pliers, and without a ton of force, I'm just going to rotate that flat side out. It's right there, and this one here looks like it needs to go all the way around. So now that's basically the way you want to get going. Let me see if I can put something dark behind it so you can see. Alright, so the first thing we want to do is we want to flux the just put a little bit of flux on the connector itself, so that it'll receive solder. If you don't have flux on that, the solder's just gonna be a real pain. So you can kind of see I just put a small amount on there. Alright, so we have our soldering iron. We got about 200 degrees Celsius, pretty much on the minimum setting. We're not trying to like solder something to a ground that's connected to a lot of components. And we're gonna grab our solder. This is the solder I'm using, in case you're curious. I have a video on how to solder a wired off flight controller in my quick tips video playlist. So we're just going to take a little bit of this and just give it a little bit of a nub. Turn this around. Just going to tin it up a little bit. We're not going to put a big ball on it, because what you don't want to do is you don't want a bunch of solder on this, because it'll bridge the two together. So you can kind of see I just have a small amount of solder with a nice space between there. We want to continue to keep that space throughout this process, so that's pretty important. So I'm going to turn my connector so you can see this is the rounded side, which is the ground, and this is the flat side. I want the round side up. I want to do the ground first. So let me go ahead and zoom out for you and we'll get going here. Alright, so I have a brand new Lipo here. I have the wrong connector on it, so we're going to go ahead and cut that connector off. Now, when you cut the connector off, there's a little bit of pin that might be exposed in the back. So like down inside there. So you don't want to take your cutters and touch that little bit of metal of the pin sticking out. So you want to cut just behind that. And you want to cut in such a way that you're cutting the wire, and then you can pull the insulation away. Okay, so we have our ground off the wire. I'm going to go ahead and bend him out of the way a little bit, get a little space, and I'm just going to take off, you know, that solder ball that I just put on there is only so big, so that's all I'm going to expose. I don't want to expose any more wire than I have to. And then I use tinning flux, so I just take a little bit of this. If you try to put solder on this wire without any flux, it's not gonna flow into the wire at all. It's gonna be kind of a nasty bug to work with. So I grab my solder. I'm just gonna pull a little bit of solder off there and just rub across my wire, and that tinning flux will draw that solder onto that wire. Okay. So now the end of that. Let me actually zoom in a little bit more. It looks like we might be too far out. Is that a little better? So now you can see the ground has some flux on it. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this little tube. This is my shrink tubing. I'll put that on the wire. Don't want to forget that, because if you solder that up without it on there, it's kind of a pain. So I'm just going to clean my tip. Set my wire on top of that little cutout, and then just flow the solder. So I know on camera it looked like I was sitting on it, but I wasn't. I just flowed it real quick, and then once it's nice and smooth all the way around, you don't have any gaps. You can see that is, focus the camera for you, so you can see that I've maintained that little gap between the two pins, and I've got a nice joint here. This solder has flown. There's a good flow all the way around that. Okay, and then give it a little bit of a tug, and that's good. So now we want to put the positive side, which is the flat side. We want to put that in our helping hand, and then we're going to come in and we're just going to cut. I'm going to pull up as high as I can on the connector, cut it off, throw it in the trash. And now we'll repeat the process that we did for the ground. Doing this one by one is kind of a safety measure that we don't touch the two wires together, obviously. Didn't quite put enough pressure on it the first time. Just pull that wire nice and smooth so you don't have any dangling. Grab a little bit of flux, put on that wire, grab our soldering iron, just going to give it a little tin, so we got our tip of our wire all tinned up. Now obviously your Lipo is going to have some juice in it. Even at storage voltage, this thing would spark pretty good. Almost forgot my little insulation. Don't forget that. Didn't I say not to forget that? Put your piece of shrink tubing on it. I'll show you here in a second the shrink tubing I use. It's really good. It's got a really nice adhesive in it, and it's pretty durable. So just grab the wire. We're just going to put it right over that flat spot. Go ahead and sink in. Flow that solder all the way around, but you don't want to heat it up too much, because we need to maintain that space between there. That space is pretty important. So we're done soldering up the tip there. Go ahead and take it off. And now we want to match these up. You could put one of these on at a time if you want, but I tell you what, it's a lot easier to slide both of them in place. And then we'll just go ahead and pull them up onto the connector there, and then just apply a little pressure to kind of squish it up on there. So now we're seated up on there, so we can grab our lighter. Go ahead and melt that on there. Give it a little twist, and then we're done. So this shrink tubing has a little bit of adhesive in it, and it's pretty strong, and it bonds to the, you see that little bubble right there? I don't know if you can see that or not. There's just a little light color right there. It's a little bubble, and that's okay. But if you have a bubble all the way across the inside, where the let me show you one that didn't go so well. See how it's not adhered all the way to the wire, so you can see it. This is a better bond. Let me go ahead and zoom out for you. Alright, so now we have our connector. We have the round side is the ground, and the flat side is the positive. So this lipo is ready to go. I'm just going to make sure the stickers that they put on here stay on here. These stickers are pretty important because they keep your wires inside. So this one's ready to go. So the biggest reason why I'm going through all this is, number one, the cost of a lipo. I'm just not doing $7. And then the other reason is the BT2.0 has less heat buildup. I noticed on my lipos running the PH2.0, there would be a significant amount of heat generated at the connector point. So wires on both sides, the connector be very warm. If you're creating heat, you're losing electricity. I mean, it's just a simple fact that if you're creating the heat, you're losing all that energy that could be going into spooling up your motors. Do I see an enormous difference? Not really. Do I see enough of difference, obviously, to do it? I do. I get a little more flight time, and when you're racing, you kind of need that extra flight time. And then also, the one thing that I did notice is when I'm about to go into a gate and I just need to hop, I need that instant jump to kind of hop over the edge. I misalign myself or whatever the case may be. I noticed that these connectors do give that quick jump, that little quick response. So I do believe that these are worth doing, and that's how I solder them up. That's how I make that happen without creating a fire. So and then let me show you one real quick, one thing else. I'll grab my charging board. So I have a video on my channel. I'll try to remember to put it up here for you, but I have a video on my channel of how do I charge my 1S lipos now. So I've got this apparatus here. I've got 3 charging boards. Byfly said they were going to send me one of their charging, one of their chargers to test, and they emailed me back later and said they didn't have enough stock and yada yada. So I'm still running these, and I've made my harness for this. And then you can see here that I have the PH2.0 on this end and the BT2.0 on this end, and I've just made little jumpers for that. Let me show you real quick the shrink tubing before I forget. This is something I found on Amazon. It's 172 piece heat shrink tubing, 3.1, and the tube I'm using is the 3/32, in case you're needing to know, which is a 2.4 millimeter. There's 60 of them in here, and that's what I'm using, cutting those down for the leads. I like this. I've gone through a couple boxes of these. This is really good stuff. That's really sticky and it lasts. It's a little bit thicker, so if you're looking for something really thin, this may not be for you. Alright, so I got a race to do tonight. One last thing I wanted to say is, if you don't have a 1S lipo checker, you should probably invest in getting one. So one of these that I just finished doing, let's go ahead and plug it in here. So this is a beta FPV lipo checker. I don't know if you can see the voltage there. So this only has the BT2.0 connector, and then This one is for the PH2.0 connector, and it will show you what your LiPo voltage is. So I do recommend having one or the other or both, just so you can kind of spot check your batteries before you plug in and go stand on the line and get your race going. So but that's it. I just wanted to show that. I know there's a couple people that were kind of curious to wonder, how do I get that connector on that LiPo without causing problems? So that's my method. That's how I do it. And if this video helped you out, give me a thumbs up and subscribe. If you hate it, man, you give it a thumbs down. It all works. Enjoy the breeze.